maybe if we can turn to you, because that's not my, I'm not familiar.
Actually, I'm not a formal member of the committee, so I think a committee member needs to read it to open the meeting.
Okay.
I've got it in front of me if you'd like.
Okay.
Thanks, Alan.
I've done this at many another meeting. So,
Okay.
so
Thank you.
pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Westborough Economic Development Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Westborough's website at www.town.westborough.ma.us. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so in the following manner via Westborough TV. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time by technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Town of Westborough's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting.
Thank you. Okay. Welcome everyone, and thanks for your involvement with the EDC over the past month. Welcome Derek Sari with us today. Derek is going to be the designee. Chris has made some changes with different responsibilities, so we're thrilled to have you, Derek. I know just from being in the business community, there are a lot of companies out there that really enjoy working with you, so I think you'll be a great addition.
Great, thank you.
Maybe for the first point to address would be the approval of the minutes from October 5th.
Okay. I move we approve the minutes of October 5th, 2020 as presented.
Fred Leonardo seconds that.
All in favor by roll call? Bonnie Sullivan?
Fred Leonardo,
yes. Kim Robbins, yes.
Linda Townsend, yes.
Alan Edinburgh, yes.
Bud Alexander, yes.
Did we hear from John?
Yes.
Okay.
Did Derek approve?
Hello. Hey, Jesse. I got a plot plan from you the other day, but I think it's
Derek, we sworn in.
right.
No, I was not. That's why I can't.
Okay. So do we have is it acceptable with what we have?
Yeah, you would just have your actual members vote.
Okay.
So is that a 7-0?
I even got the tape measure out and checked my house.
Okay, I believe so. Let's see. I don't think we had Christie on, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6, is it? I think it's 6.
I have Bonnie, John,
You got
Todd,
6, 0 to 1.
Alan, Linda, and Fred.
Linda and Fred, yep.
Yes.
Yes. So I guess you're right, 7.
All right, thank you.
7, yep. Okay, great, thank you. Okay. Very good. So over the past month, there have been, a lot of initiatives with that had been introduced at our last meeting. I'll just mention a few, and I think others may have things to introduce as well. I had an introductory call with Paul Dunbeck and the Climate Action Plan to the 495 Metro West partnership. And the call went very well. They're looking at ways that Paul can perhaps be on a subsequent webinar, also to introduce the program through their newsletter and engage with some of the other communities that are members of 495 Metro West. So I think Paul appreciated the introduction. So that was positive. I think several of us participated on the master plan roundtables. And I know I was on one representing the bank on the economic development side. And it was an interesting discussion and good ideas that I'm sure we'll hear down the road. Town meeting, certainly we'll hear about the developments and how that will impact us going forward. And there have been other calls and other meetings on the Westborough video, and we'll hear from Linda and Karen, as well as Mass Econ Bio with the Ready Mass 100 that Jim Robbins and I were on. So we'll be looking to engage John Steinberg and others on that initiative. So as well as discussions on goals and the EDC mission. So there's certainly a lot going on. Maybe we start under our agenda, EDC mission, goals, and priorities. For starters, Josh Lee Smith did resign, wasn't excited to have to do so. However, he felt that he had conflicts with different clients that he was working with. So he will step down as a member and is not able to stay on as an ambassador either. So I'm sure we'll see him in the community, and he's a real supporter, but unable to continue with the EDC at this time. Todd introduced a great candidate in Justin Lundberg, who as many of you know from town. Todd, do you want to comment?
Sure. So yeah, as you mentioned, Justin's was the owner of Westborough Tennis and Swim, is now back running Westborough Tennis and Swim as a result of the Boston Sports Club bankruptcy. That was on the list of ones that they were giving up. So he and his staff are back running that. I did talk to him, and it sounded like he had some interest in being involved. He is the chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals in town. I'm on that board with him. It's a great board. He's a great chairman and very knowledgeable and very pro Westborough. So I think he'd be an excellent addition if he decides to do it. I don't know if he submitted a letter yet or what have you.
Yeah, he did reach out, just so you know, and we let him know that he did need to submit something. I've had a chance to speak with Kim and Christy. There have been a couple of other candidates that were interested, and I don't know if anyone else has anyone that they might recommend, but I guess, Kim, you can speak to what we want to do formally as far as, presenting this to the Board of Selectmen.
Sure. We talked about following the typical process that we have when there are openings on committees for which the board is the appoints the members. And that would be basically advertise the opening and ask for a letter of interest to be submitted to the board for the board to take up and consider at an upcoming meeting. So we were looking at, potentially putting a date out. I think we had talked about perhaps November 20th for a date by which potential interested applicants could get something in for consideration in early December.
With the Board of Selectmen. So if anyone has anyone else that they'd like to recommend, I think we do have one interested party that is employed locally. It's not required. I think, did we conclude that we're able to consider someone that is not a Westborough resident? Okay, all right. So while certainly it's, I think it's great to have a candidate that's both. If anyone has anyone else, please keep that date in mind, reach out to them and ask if they submit a letter to the Board of Selectmen that we can forward by next Friday, the 20th. Okay. A second item on the agenda is returning to a regular EDC meeting schedule. As you know, we for years have had our meetings on the first Tuesday of the month at 8 a.m. at Town Hall or wherever we happen to meet. We went through a couple of months this spring where we didn't meet, and then we kind of fell back into a afternoon schedule, probably more than anything based on what worked for me. And what I'd like to propose at this time, whether we hold on to that, as we move ahead, and hopefully we will return to meeting in person. But I'd like to propose meeting the second Thursday of the month, as we are today from 3:30 to 5. So I've mentioned that to a few people. It seemed to be a good date or a good day of the week as far as other regularly scheduled meetings. Is that a time that anyone has a conflict? Or a Thursday, second Thursday of the month, 3:30 to 5 p.m. And at this point, it'll be a Zoom meeting until, we hopefully things will, evolve in the months ahead. Does that work? Okay.
Well, hold on, I'm just looking at my calendar a couple of months out. It would be easier, and I know I know Planning Board and Board of Selectmen meet on alternating weeks, so it'd be easier for me if it was the first Thursday of the month, so it wasn't.
Okay.
So the prep work for this meeting wasn't overlapping as much with the prep work for the Board of Selectmen meeting.
Okay.
But
That's fine with me.
if I'm the only one who has that concern, I can certainly make this work and would be happy to do so. So.
I was more focused on the day of the week, but not necessarily what the week. So does the first Thursday of the month work for everyone? Is there anyone else that would have a conflict with that date? So that would mean our next meeting would be December 3rd, which probably isn't a bad thing given all that we've got going on, to meet, in fewer weeks. Okay, great. So we'll plan that. We'll meet on the first Thursday of the month from 3:30 to 5 with a Zoom call. Kim has been posting the meetings and setting up the Zoom links. Kristen has been Kristen and Kim are updating the website with agendas and minutes. So we've got the bios and photos updated. So if anyone wants to update their photo or bio, let us know. We're trying to move things ahead. Let's see. I don't know, Christy, if you or Kim want to give a highlight of the town meeting as it relates to the EDC.
Sure. So at the town meeting, which was on November 7th, we had 2 articles related to the creation of a community development department. And so we did pass both articles. So now we've amended the general bylaws to include a community development department, which is the building department. So it's a consolidation of departments: building department, conservation department, and economic development coordinator. And then as we defined, community development director, they may also take on the role of building commissioner. So we're elevating Fred Leonardo to that position effective January 1st. And then obviously this position in this community development department will work closely with Jim Robbins, the town planner, and the planning board.
Great. And Kim distributed the job description, which I don't know if everyone has had a chance to look at it. It's general and intended to be so. It was the same that we had used in the past. We've had the chance to speak on the plan going forward for posting that. But if anyone has any feedback on the job description, if you could get back to us, I think that would be helpful quickly. Kim, do you want to speak to your time frame and the plans for posting the position?
Sure. Our plan is to move forward and post immediately. Typical recruitment, I think best case scenario is probably, at least a 2-month process by the time we advertise, review, allow time for applications to come in, review everything, hold interviews. I know we have funding available for January 1. I'm hopeful that we could, move the process right along and have someone in as soon as possible. But I think the key thing here is we want to get the right candidate for the position. So I think the sooner we get started, it behooves us to start this sooner than later. We have a number of typical places where we post job descriptions, but I'll probably also reach out to individual members and just ask for any support, any thoughts, any places you can push it out to. I think the more eyes that see it, the better. So at this point, that's in a nutshell.
So, right. So I didn't mention that article. So we also had a budget article where we brought back the economic development coordinator budget effective January 1st. And so we are interested in posting very quickly. I did receive from Fred, who will supervise that position, 3 changes to the job description. And I'd like to bring that before the Board of Selectmen at their meeting on Tuesday, the 17th, because they won't meet again until December 8th. So I think our time frame for hearing from you folks, I'd like to hear right now in the meeting if you have. I know it was sent out ahead of time, so I'm hoping that people had time to review. But it has, this committee has looked at it over the years. This committee obviously was developed it with our office, and then we've changed it a couple of times. But as Bonnie said, I think the position description itself includes, I think, everything that we'd be looking for. It's just a matter of finding the right person for the position. So I don't know, if, Bonnie, maybe you want Fred to mention the 3 changes that he had proposed.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure, I can do that. So one, effective January 1st, that individual would actually report directly to me as opposed to Christy. So that's just a formal change on the, where you see where it says reports to. So on the top. One thing that our previous coordinator did, but not routinely, was attend our Wednesday meetings. So I'd like to actually throw that in there, that they'd be required to attend those as required. So basically they get more involved in our weekly meetings that we have, generally open to the public for projects that come forward to the town. And then lastly, something that Christy and I had talked about, maybe encouraging that person to join one of the local, one of the local civic organizations, i.e. like Rotary or Lions Club or something, more for networking purposes than anything. So I had suggested that we write that somewhere into the job description as well. So those are my 3 suggested changes.
Okay. I need to look back myself to see that we also have the person, I think we did have representing the EDC on member organizations that we're members of, including 495 Metro West Partnership and Mass Econ.
Those are in there.
Those are in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And
All right, great.
under that, I included the civic organizations, that if they join one of those, that'd be great too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Great.
I would lean more towards Rotary, given the size versus Lions or Kiwanis right now.
Sure. I don't know that I specified which one. Just I said AKA like a Rotary.
Yeah. So one of the things that we try really hard to stress when we're updating job descriptions is that they're not sort of a to-do list or a list of goals, but really just what the job's essential responsibilities are. So, I do think if there are other thoughts about, maybe things that you think are missing, we would like to hear them now. But, I think that Fred and Bonnie and Kim and I felt like in reading it, it was pretty all-encompassing.
Just as a comment, there are other groups too that your former EDC coordinator attended, like Quarter 9 Chambers Economic Development Subcommittee. But I know you're going to catch all of those. It's just an idea that I think Fred was trying to get out there so that this person would have a face in the community. And I think that having that person attend these subcommittees or attend a meeting of the Rotary as a member is really key. So I would also support strengthening that role of this person.
So I think Christine and Kim, then the plan would be with these changes and any other changes that anyone may have in the next day, that would be taken to the Board of Selectmen on Tuesday. And then from there, you'd finalize and get it out to MMA, some of these other organizations that we've talked about, maybe Mass Econ 495 Metro West, and you have others as well. Would that be your time frame next week?
Yeah, we want to get it out as soon as possible.
Okay. And then once the, there's interest, there'll be an interview review committee, and that will be, Chrissy, do you want to speak to, and you and Kim, as to how you'll handle that?
Sure. So, so Fred, Kim, myself will be on the committee to hire the economic development coordinator, but we would ask that a representative from the EDC also be on the committee, which is what we've done in the past when hiring for this position. So if you could appoint that person or select that person that you want to be part of that process, that'll just help us in terms of planning. And once we, are ready to start scheduling interviews. And I think another way that members of the EDC can participate in the process without being on the hiring committee is to offer ideas about questions that you think we should ask. So certainly open to that. It's a great way that other committee members for other positions have participated, making sure that we're sort of highlighting key things that you think need to be discussed in the interview process. And that you can just send directly to Kim. Any thoughts about that?
Would it be anticipated, Christy, that we might have maybe, let's say we're flooded, we've got multiple candidates, and you have a first round with the hiring committee, and then maybe there's a second round where maybe we pull in, maybe we do something with a broader group from the EDC, or add a couple of people, or would that be, uncalled for, inappropriate?
No, I mean, I think we've done that. We do that a lot. We do second rounds. A great example of that is the hiring of our golf manager. So Kim brought in members of the country club operating committee on the first round, and then a different member for the second round, which I think we actually just completed those right before we got on the call. And I think that really offered a good perspective and gives additional members a chance to be part of the process. So if we have a lot of candidates, which would be fantastic. I think that we would definitely, be interested in talking about how we would structure that second hiring panel. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, good. I've been involved for a couple with Francisco, and early on with Kate. I wasn't in the end, but given the number of people that we're including at this point, if we're able to have a second round, I'd like to see Jim. My recommendation would be to have Jim Robbins participate, just because of his historic, perspective with the EDC and the various statewide, and regional economic development organizations. I don't know if others have thoughts. And then my hope would be that maybe, a couple of us then participate maybe in a second round or something, but.
Bonnie, thanks for saying that. Actually, Jim participated previously, so I think Jim, just in his position as town planner and not necessarily as an EDC rep, should be part of that committee. So I think if you would want to offer someone else. So Jim, I apologize, Jim.
So Jim would be involved anyway.
Yeah.
Jim's been voluntold.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone else that would like to participate?
I'll do it if we need a committee member. I'm willing to do it.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent. I was going to suggest it would be good for Todd or I'm trying to blank on name. It's just as a representative of a business owner in the community to be on it, and I'm that as well. But I'm also on the board of selectmen, so that puts me in the town official side. So.
Okay. I think that would be greatly appreciated, Todd. I'd like to participate in the second round if we could do that. Okay, good. And then I think so we're looking forward to, Fred, to working with you. It's exciting. So I know it's been great going out to some of the companies that we visited together already. We've also had discussions over the last couple of weeks on the EDC mission and goals. And so we've definitely in a transition with coming through the pandemic and without staffing. And now as we're making the changes with the new community development department and hiring the coordinator. So we want to keep moving ahead. We're trying to return to, business as usual or business under more normal circumstances and get things moving. Certainly our market, our environment has changed. So that means, the initiatives that we're focused on should evolve as well. So we had these discussions, and Alan has enthusiastically, introduced ideas. He had some great ideas, and he offered to lead a discussion. What we thought we would do is have the agenda at our next meeting be the EDC mission and goals, so that we could talk about some of the initiatives that we have underway and talk about whether there are other things that we feel we should be doing. So I think given our next meeting is December 3rd, I think that would be our discussion for that date. Do you want to comment further, Alan?
Just a few comments. I think that with all of the challenges of COVID-19 and where we're situated as a community, there's a need to rethink where our focus is as we go forward and hopefully come out of COVID-19 in the spring. I also think it's a huge opportunity to get creative and rethink how we engage with the business community and how we look at sort of the four foundational pillars of the EDC and the general mission as far as what we want to achieve. And so I'm happy to run it. I may send out a couple surveys ahead of the meeting to gather some thoughts and information that we could then present and have more discussion points at that meeting. So keep an eye out for that.
I think the idea is, some brainstorming, things
Yep.
that we have currently that may be able to evolve a bit, but ways that you're just kind of in response to what we're experiencing. So that would be great. We, recognizing, of course, that we're going through changes with things becoming more formal, with, Fred taking on the community development department. It's intended to, it might be a bit short term in nature. So I think we might have some shorter term focus, and then there's a longer term. So
Yep.
Certainly, Fred, we're going to be welcoming your, your thoughts as we move ahead. So just to, make it a collaborative effort. And, as part of that, we realized that we've got dated material, our website, our collateral material. Some of those things are things we can start with as to, thinking of some of the existing programs, but certainly bringing a coordinator on board will have a full-time person that can be dedicated to moving forward some of the ideas that the EDC introduces. So with that, I will move over to the EDC annual review and promotional video. And Linda has been, charging ahead with the subcommittee, and Linda, Karen, and I had a call earlier this week. And so Linda, if you want to talk about where we are and what the thoughts are and, kind of our plans to move ahead this year during this COVID environment.
Sure. So the subcommittee met as a whole last month, and during that meeting, we talked about the best steps to proceed with the annual review meeting and the promotional video for Westborough. And our thought at that time, after our discussion, was given that there were limitations to what we could do with a virtual event, instead, we thought maybe we would focus our efforts on the promotional video this year. Without a live event, there aren't opportunities for business leaders to get together and network and, just kind of the primary purpose of the event. So we ran that idea by Bonnie, and she was in agreement that would make sense So just floating that out there in case there's any objection or any discussion about that before we decide that's definitely what we want to do.
And the idea was that this is going to be a valuable tool as with whatever initiatives we introduce now under our short-term, work plan, having a current, Westborough video will be something we can use. It'll be a valuable investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can also be something that we put out there as an event of sorts. So perhaps with comments from the Lieutenant Governor and Bonnie kind of introducing the video, and a day that we put it out to the public for viewing. So that was kind of our thought process. Karen, were you chiming in? Did you want to say something?
No, I mean, other than, I wasn't trying to chime in, but other than just to say that Westborough TV, as you know, I've talked to the subcommittee and then again to you and Bonnie about it, are kind of all in to make a great video for Westborough. And I know that most of you saw our small business video that we did, which is just kind of an example of where we feel like we can create something. And I'd never want to create something that wasn't of a high professional nature for our town if we're going to put it out there. So I'm hoping that can show you that that we could handle that project and that we'd be excited to do it. I think the videos we did last year at the EDC meeting were, not to be self-congratulatory, but I thought that they were really, for Westborough, when I look at it, really well done and, presented well to all of those companies and to the people who were there. So I feel like with that in mind, it would be great to join together and create a video that the EDC can use going forward with the help of a smaller subcommittee. The whole committee, but a smaller subcommittee to work on a lot of it and then bring it back to the full committee.
Okay. And
yeah, so with that in mind, as long as there aren't any objections, we, Bonnie and Karen and I had the opportunity to chat earlier this week to talk about timing and best next steps. So at this point, we can still do this in January if that's of interest. It's not a necessity if we wanted to give ourselves more time. But Karen felt like if we get started, that we can still pull together the really quality Why Westborough video that we're all hoping to achieve. So if that is our intention, then what we were thinking is that we would ask this whole group to contribute thoughts about what are the critical things that we need to include in this video. 3 to 5 points maybe that you think are really important that we must include or are vital to include. Who are the speakers that you think would be the right people to speak in the video? And then any footage in town of businesses or other locations that you think would be important to include. So we're asking everybody to share their thoughts about those 3 things. And if you could send them to me, my email's on the general distribution by early next week, that would be great. I know that's a tight timeline, but if possible, to try to get those to me by Monday. And then the thought is that then the subcommittee, we're hoping, and again, this is a very tight timeline, but hoping to get together before Thanksgiving, if we could come together as a group, and that would be Jim Robbins, Todd Alexander, Bonnie Sullivan, myself, and then Karen and her team, if we could arrange a 2-hour call next week sometime, and we can just together use the input of the rest of the group and our own thoughts to put together a storyboard, then we can turn that over to Westborough TV and they can start to create the video with our assistance. Does that seem reasonable? Is that, does anybody think that's too much of a push?
I think we were targeting, the end of January, thinking that would probably, given the holidays, that would be reasonable. But Also, Karen has, and the subcommittee has looked at other videos, and Marlborough has a video. I think Todd had identified one in Grafton. Marlborough's, I think, was one that was especially professional, as they've been fortunate to have, greater resources. I'm involved with Mass Econ, and Mass Econ has also done video. In fact, I'll send a link to people. Mass Econ has the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. They do their annual Economic Impact Awards this year are going to be remote, and it includes video. So just to get another idea, of videos. But those between Marlborough and Mass Econ, those are a couple of thoughts we have. Jim?
Also, the city of Worcester produced a very good video when they were putting together proposals for the Amazon headquarters. They had a great video showing the assets to locate business in the city, everything from their cultural and to their business base, which I thought was very effective. And I know that was a while ago, it was over a year ago, but I think what they did was still relevant. We can find that online.
We're fortunate to have our own secret weapon or jewel with Westborough TV. So we all know how professional they were last year. And, we know that, I just feel so at ease knowing that Karen is involved, because her team just really rose to the occasion last year, as everyone knows. So,
and I'll send in comments as requested, but just a general comment that, and I don't know how it relates to the length that it's going to happen, but I think it's important that we have participation from a broad range of businesses, not only in the type of businesses, retail, office, distribution, research and development that we have in town. But as we look at the size of the business, also making sure that we have some representation from minority business owners and help ensure that people understand that we're a welcoming community. And so we've got some great minority-owned retails and B2B companies here in town. I think we should highlight a few of those as well in the mix.
That's a good point, Alan. Thank you. Great. Anything further, Linda?
I was just, if I can add one thing really quickly, kind of the third piece that Linda asked about, and really if people can send in, it can be bulleted lists of things that you really want to make sure that we touch on. You don't have to flesh a ton out. It's not supposed to be a big homework assignment, but it can kind of be in any format. But the third request was about sites or things that we might include, and that is kind of for us, for anything that maybe a site that you've been at that you think, it was a great foyer in the opening of their building that would be great to get, or places where maybe some of you have been that we wouldn't have been, that you might say, oh, that office park, it's really neat the way the entry looks, or things that maybe you guys can think of that we haven't been privy to. So if there are any of those kind of sites, things we already this fall, in anticipation of this, went out and got some really great footage, like above Route 9 and 495, kind of coming into the corridor. So we're not looking at middle of winter footage. But some of the other places, it's okay to show different seasons. We've got them all. But if there are any kind of sites like that you can think of, that's really what I was looking for, was when we go to have kind of that B-roll of some of these buildings. If you guys have any thoughts on that, those of you who have been out and about, that would be helpful.
And Karen, that includes under construction sites like Amazon and Olympus and things like that. I know you have aerial footage of both of those, but just to add that, so if other people are thinking of construction sites or anything that's underway, it doesn't have to be something that's complete.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. One other, so that's excellent. So the target is on next Monday to send Linda an email with the 3 things: people that you think would be good representatives, attributes about the town, and sites. And we are fortunate that Karen took the initiative to get some sites in advance. So we're on our way. One thing that I forgot to mention, so thank you, Linda and Karen and the subcommittee. I forgot to mention, as we're talking about sites, Jim, do you want to speak to I had distributed the Mass Econ has a solicitation out to get sites for their bio-ready sites for their, but with a target date of next week. So Jim and I had a call with Doug Kellum, who manages that, and just looking at the sites that we currently have listed and some of the ideas that were surfaced as other candidates. We came away from it with some interesting ideas, and just want to touch base on that because John Steinberg, we know we were thinking that you and Jim would be great people to work on that going forward. Jim, do you want to comment?
Sure. Thank you very much, Bonnie. And we did have a very informative phone call with Doug Kellum this afternoon, and we asked him specifics about what the criteria are to qualify to be on the list. The two most important things are a vacant building or a building with vacancy of at least 50,000 square feet. So I know that some sites have been brought up along town of vacant buildings, like the former Shakur building. It doesn't have 50,000 square feet. They have to have a threshold of that amount because they would otherwise receive so many applications across the state. They're only listing the top 100 sites. So Westborough currently has 2 sites on the list. We had 3, but since Caruth had 2 of those 3, and one of those was 800 West Park Drive. As we know, Olympus is developing 800 West Park Drive. So that site is off the list. They still have 4400 Computer Drive and 700 Freiburg Parkway, which is a vacant parcel. Now that brings up the second criteria that's important to reach the threshold, is that if a parcel is vacant, it must accommodate 100,000 square feet of potential development. Also, it must be served by utilities. So if it's going to be on water and sewer, it must have a water and sewer connection. That doesn't mean that the water and sewer is in the ground waiting for a building to be built. It means it must have a stub or a permission permit to connect. They also require that projects be shovel ready. And what they mean by that is you can't just identify a piece of property that doesn't have any plan for it or doesn't have any utilities waiting for it. So for example, the Bavarian Farm on Otis Street, it's a great development site. We're hoping that that gets developed. We've had a developer get into the process and move along in the process only to back out, but it doesn't qualify as a shovel-ready project. However, on the other hand, the EMC campus does. EMC Dell, we're all familiar with that. That was permitted by the planning board to be an industrial subdivision for 2.1 million square feet of R&D. It has the utilities, drainage in the ground, and the roadway infrastructure constructed. That is a primary site. And when we mentioned that to Doug Kellum this afternoon, he was highly interested in that. The application has to be submitted by the property owner. And there is a fee associated with it, but the fee is only payable if Mass Econ accepts the property to be listed. I think he said, is it a $300 fee, Bonnie? It was
$350.
$350, and that's annually. So for example, Caruth's properties have been on the list for several years. So he paid the annual fee each year that it was on the list. That's a small fee, I think. I think $350 is really small. Another property that we looked at was One Research Drive. Now, as we know, that's used to be University of Phoenix. They vacated the building. There are a couple new tenants, but we have to find out how many square feet, and that's, John, that's where you come in, to find out how many square feet are vacant in that building. 50,000 square feet is the threshold. So I know that there's some other Caruth properties or properties that Caruth purchased in the last couple of years, vacant buildings. Another site that we talked about with them is 800 West Park Drive, which is the eClinical building.
700.
What did I say? Oh, I said 800, didn't I? I meant 700, I'm sorry. 700 West Park Drive, which is the eClinical building, formerly the EMC property. That has been vacant always, and that would meet their threshold. So 50,000 square feet of an existing building or 100,000 square feet for a green field that is shovel ready.
On the different properties identified, we were, basically, I think came down to needing to identify the appropriate contact at each property. So EMC Dell, I think Dan Fitzgerald had been the point person, but Chris Egan might even be a point person there to identify who the right person is. If anyone has a contact at that property, that would be helpful.
I have someone I can reach out to get a contact, one of the real estate guys.
Okay.
That would be great, John.
Yep.
Okay. So John, Jim has a list of the properties in kind of priority. I think the other one that we weren't certain about, I think Alan had proposed 45 Oak Street that had been owned by the Chase family. We just weren't sure of the status and how large that is. And I think that does represent.
That's the former JCC property?
Yes.
Yep.
Originally Chase Paper Company and Printing.
Correct.
Yeah, that building's actually partially occupied. There's a spa company in there. And Justin's wife actually had a daycare in the front end of that. That's been shuttered more or less from my understanding, but I don't think they've eliminated the use of that. So the only vacant space was in the back end. And I don't know if it qualified for the 50,000. I'm not sure it was that big.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we have a couple that are, good candidates. And while their target is next week, I think Doug said they could look at, by Thanksgiving, although given that they currently have 64 properties on their list of Ready Mass 100, they've got 36, openings. So he said he would, look at something on a rolling basis if we aren't able to move things ahead and, with the property owner within the next couple of weeks. So John, if you can work with Jim on that, that would be great. Is there anything else that, I know that John has to step off early. Was there anything else, John, that you wanted to mention before needing to go on to your other meeting?
No, I think this is good. I'm happy to work on that and we'll plug away with the goals. I think that's great.
Okay, good. I think the other program that you've been involved with Kim and others is the EDC grant and vacant storefront program. So Kim, do you want to update us where you are there?
Sure. On November 4th, I submitted the town's application to get approval, the vacant storefront district approval, which is the first step. So that once that's approved by the Economic Assistance Coordinating Council, at that point, applicants can then apply for the grant funds. So the application was due November 4th, and then the EACC will take it up at its December 10th meeting.
And on the EDC grant program, any further developments with Dairy Queen or other projects in the pipeline?
Well, Dairy Queen's grant was approved and they've submitted payment for they're seeking partial reimbursement for the items that they've spent so far. It was the cash registers. And
Yep.
As they had indicated when they came before the committee, they will likely complete the purchase with the picnic tables in the spring. So we had agreed that they could split it up. So they've submitted for the first portion of that.
And we had talked about moving this to a kind of a more of a competitive process and a kind of a quarterly review. I don't know if Fred, if you wanted to speak to that, or Kim, as far as where we are, moving forward with any new candidates.
Well, Kim, I haven't heard from through Kim that we've gotten any new applications. And she's shaking her head no, meaning that no, we haven't had any. So we would not be prepared to bring something forward for the December meeting since there's nothing in the pipeline. So that would by default really go to our May meeting. We're in that time frame.
So two things we had contemplated, waiting until we know and hopefully have EACC approval on the vacant storefront, because once we know we're approved for that, And once the other thing that may line up with is the billboard, the funding coming in and the funding being available. As you know, we've talked about trying to align the timing of the funds actually coming in rather than sort of pre-spending any money. So at the point at which we have both pieces, I think we could maybe look at a schedule and probably a way to advertise and promote the vacant storefront opportunity.
Mhm. Okay. Great.
So that might be a good topic for the early January meeting.
Mhm. And one of the things that we were talking about earlier that Alan was saying is it would be timely to do a business, broker's breakfast as we had done once before. And certainly some of these, initiatives would be things to, that would be, good for the agenda. Okay. I did send out an invitation that Kevin Kuros had sent to us about an upcoming webinar on the EDIP program on November 18th. I don't know if anyone's interested in that, but if it, certainly there have been new developments, but if it's not a program that you've been exposed to in the past, it would, it may be something that's worth your time to be introduced to that program. Okay. Let's see. Jim, do you want to, I know you might have had a couple of items for your report.
We covered the first one, which was the Mass Econ Top 100 list. Thank you for that. Glad we could talk about that as a larger group. Second thing I wanted to talk about was the master plan. And Bonnie, you alluded to the Economic Development Roundtable that was held last week by Landwise, which is the economic development consultant for our master plan consultant, VHB. And they solicited 135 local businesses through the Quarter 9 Chamber of Commerce, received 20 responses to their invitation. So there were 20 businesses that met in a couple different roundtables. And Bonnie, you were involved in one representing the bank. And how many were in your roundtable?
There were 5. It was Chris Egan, Melissa from Yummy Mummy, Vinny, local CPA who was great, young, vibrant. I'm trying to think of his last name. And then Bonnie Adams. So it was small, but it was different perspectives, service provider, small business, and, major property owner. So it was.
So that means, so 5, I assume 5 was the typical size they would have had for round.
Karen and Linda were involved in one as well.
Linda, were you part of one of those?
Yeah, I was involved with one as well. We actually had 8 or 9 people on ours. So it was a bigger group, but it was great. A lot of different perspectives, as Bonnie said. Good.
And the format was intended to.
As well. Todd?
Was Todd on one of?
I was just responding to Alan's message to everyone. They booted me off as well. They reached out to me, oddly enough, like a day before, and so I registered. And then literally like the next day, right before the thing started, they told me that they inadvertently sent me the invitation and didn't want to have any government officials or anyone from the EDC on it.
Same thing happened to me.
Same thing happened to me too. So we all responded, so it would help out, but we got booted.
Oh, see, well, I appreciate the response.
So I was instructed to be sure I was only wearing the bank's hat, Middlesex Bank. So,
yeah, the intention was to allow people to speak freely and not think that they would be retaliated on in a future project, say, because there was a town employee or an elected official in the room. So we tried to keep as arm's length from town government as possible. And that's why Landwise ran it. They asked each group the same series of questions. I know they've compiled the responses. They're supposed to deliver them to the Master Plan Advisory Committee at its next meeting. And they will also deliver them back to this group, to the EDC as well. So that's an essential component of the baseline data for our economic development subcommittee. And as you know, the master plan has 7 different subcommittees, one of which is economic development. So that's a key component to our data collection for how businesses perceive the business climate here in Westborough.
I'm going to just comment, if I could, really quickly, that in the group that I was in, I was on one of the calls, and just because I think it's interesting for this group to know that Karen Chapman was on that from Quarter 9, and Jason Palich from the 495 Partnership. So that was kind of good because they were speaking for a lot of companies when they were speaking. So I thought getting their input was great because they were kind of giving input on what they've heard from many companies in the area. So even though there were just 2 of them on the call, I thought they were representative of a lot of people. So
that's great. Thank you. One other project, just one project that I want to talk a little bit about is the Target property. There is a company that's looking to break off a front parcel along Route 9, which will conform with zoning. That will leave the Target parcel still non-conforming. It's a pre-existing non-conforming parcel as far as coverage. It has less than 60% open space. The new parcel will conform, so there's no zoning issue there, but the Target needs to go to the ZBA to allow them to grant them a special permit for altering a pre-existing non-conforming lot. The intention for the use at the new site is a grocer, a small grocer, kind of a boutique grocer. They won't tell us who it is, but I just wanted to kind of put that out there as a new project that's coming forward. When you get to Fred, he may have more update.
Jim, do you have any update on the West Park Drive with the infrastructure?
The MassWorks grant?
Yeah.
We have not heard back, and Chris Egan has been working with me and keeping in contact with the MassWorks program. I think that we're in good shape, but we haven't heard any official word.
Mm-hmm. Great. Did anyone participate in the Astellas ribbon cutting? They had the event. Alan?
If I participate and attend and watch the video, I did.
Okay.
It was well done. They had a couple of video problems, or I might have been having internet problems where I was. So a couple things, I got booted out a couple of times and had to come back in, but it was nicely done.
Mm-hmm. So everything's gone ahead smoothly for them, and they are occupying people in the labs. And...
Yeah, I mean, my sense is that you know, that things are up and running, and they're at the start of what they see as their growth.
Yep.
As far as hiring and expanding what's happening there in the labs.
Yeah. Fred and I think we both received correspondence from John Heffernan, who had been our point person there, that he was leaving the company. So I'm not quite sure. There was another person, I think, that was taking over as the, that would be the primary town contact. Do you have a current contact there now, Fred? Yeah, I think in the email that John Heffernan sent us, he gave the name of the person who I think we had met at our site visit, the gentleman who had been involved in a lot of the HVAC and the construction side of things. But anyway, they'll be a good contact to reconnect with.
Sorry, but that's one more thing. I'll be quiet. I'm not even on your committee. I'm sorry. But the person who's in charge of communications down at Astellas was on the call I was on with Landwise for the EDC roundtable. So if you're looking for a name, he was great. And he was on that call. So I'm sure that Jim can track that down from Landwise.
Okay, great. Thank you, Karen. Okay. Fred, do you?
Sure. So quickly, Jim was right about Target. They actually did open the initial meeting for relief on the main Target lot. They're fooling around with the plan a little bit. They wanted to make it more attractive to the ZBA to hear. So the ZBA is to hear that hearing on the 23rd of November. Nobody showed up for the first initial meeting. So could be that nobody shows up for the next one, which is a good thing for them. So we'll see how that goes through. But hopefully if they can get the Target part of it authorized through the CBA, they would go on to the second steps of that and then come for a site plan review and those type of things. Maybe by then, before they move in, we'll know who the grocer is. Right now, they're kind of tight-lipped on that. Couple other small businesses, 72 East Main Street, which used to be Bushel and Peck. There's a small bakery that is hoping to move in there. I'll butcher the name, but Swansky Break Shop, I believe is the name. I don't know if it's a great spot. We'll see with Yummy Bummy right across the parking lot from there, but not exactly sure what the bake shop is, but they're hoping to open they're hoping by tomorrow, but we'll see. Maybe if not tomorrow, early next week. So we're working with them. Stagecoach Plaza, which I believe the street address is 270 Turnpike. There's an interesting thing going in there. The operators of Parcel and Peck, which is in that's that coffee place, get your package thing all in one roof. They're actually renting the space at the end of Stagecoach. It's kind of a clothing store, come get your picture taken. What they did is they bought out the set of up in Devon's. It was a show that was on for a couple of years that was inspired by Stephen King. I can't recall the name of it. Castle Rock, I think just came to mind. Castle Rock, I think is the name of it. Anyway, they bought all the set out basically. So the intent of the store is you go in, you can purchase clothing that originated from Castle Rock, but they also have like backgrounds of scenery from that show. Again, I don't really know the show, but you can have your picture taken and things like that. So that's kind of the end store at Stagecoach Plaza. That should be opening anytime now. We've done inspections on it. They've fully stocked it with this stuff. And that's kind of what they want to do going forward. It's kind of like you can go in and buy old clothes that were related to whatever. So, and take your picture in front of, they had like caskets in there and stuff like that. I don't know if they'll let you get in the casket, but maybe. There were site caskets, though, and not like, like vampires would live in that type of casket. Anyway, so that business should be up and coming soon. And those are the ones that we can talk about publicly. That's what I have.
Christy, can we buy some of that scenery to liven up our boardrooms and some of our offices?
Sounds reasonable. You need lights in your office more than you need scenery, I guess.
That's all I had for today.
Well, vampires like to live in the dark. That's the thing.
The concept is actually kind of cool. You have to talk to those guys. It was much like the Parcel and Peck concept. They're kind of out of the box type people. So that's kind of the thought of this thing is that, again, what they're encouraging is people to come in and take photographs. As they explained it to myself and Jason Fursky when we went there, that's the thought that was given to us, is the idea is they set up like these scenery or stuff, and you take your picture in front of this thing or with it or whatever, and then maybe buy clothes. I don't know. Somehow they're going to make a buck, I'm sure, but it's kind of an interesting concept, a little bit different. So
it's a store and more of an entertainment destination.
I guess, Alan.
Okay. The next big thing after escape rooms, right?
Yeah, sort of. Again, you have to kind of go in there and see the stuff. If nothing else, even if you don't buy anything, it might be worth the trip just to kind of see the setup. As I said, they completely bought out that particular set. So, for instance, they have something about Shawshank Redemption. That's one of my favorite movies. I can't even say it, but there was like a sign that says that, and because that was a Stephen King book, which I didn't even realize. But anyway, so that whole Castle Rock was predicated on Stephen King novels, and that was the whole intent of it. As I said, from my understanding, what they told us, it only lasted the 2 seasons. And I don't, so I suspect they might be looking to buy out or buy other movie theater stuff. I don't know. They didn't really say where they're going in the future. That's what they've started with. So as I said, they bought out basically all the clothing from that scene or that set. So that's what they're going to start with and sell. So again, if you want to get your picture near a mummy casket thing and all that, and then go there. That's my promo for them for today.
Fred, do you have any estimate on the timing of the completion of that? I guess it's a 3-prong business venture at Lyman Street and Route 9. It's a very visible place, and so there are a lot of questions about when those places might be opening.
Yeah, Pete, thank you for asking that. Actually, my bad on that one. I apologize. So I have talking to Rosario Latuca, who is the owner of that property recently. They're hoping to get, and that's kind of you got to understand, Rosario, hoping is a good word. We're hoping to see that up and running within the next month or so, meaning there's a Burger King slated for the end unit, if you will, closest to Lyman Street. Starbucks is the middle unit, and Ready Med is the a taller unit, if you will. Starbucks and Burger King, I haven't done inspections out there, but staff has. They've been out. So they're nearing completion in those two, but they probably still have a few weeks to go. Hopefully prior to Christmas, let's say, we hope. That's kind of their game plan. They still have some site work to do and things like that. I know I just talked to Chick, is his nickname. Chick just called me this past week. There's some minor modifications they have to do on the entrance on Turnpike. That's supposed to be happening next week. Some things like that. So hopefully we'll see some commerce in there before the end of the year. That's the best date I can give you, but hopefully.
Great, thank you.
Yep, I'm sorry. Ready Med is a little bit further behind because they get kind of killed by the pandemic, if you can imagine. So I suspect we won't see the end unit for a little bit. They've just come back to me with communication. They're ready to begin again because they hadn't done anything in that particular unit. But thanks for asking that.
Thank you.
Fred, it's actually Convenient MD, right? Not Ready Med.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. My apologies. You're absolutely correct. It is Convenient MD. It's I got my my sources wrong. You're actually 100% correct, Todd. My apologies.
Are they using the second story above Convenient MD, or is that just for show?
It's just for show. My understanding, it's their kind of business model. They have other Convenient MDs in the state, if not in New England. I'm not sure exactly how far out they go. So it's somewhere around a 10 or 11 foot ceiling height inside of there. So there's a lot of dead space. I don't know that it was a great use of that actual space, but I guess that's their business model. They like to project high. They actually try to get 3 signs on that because they like to have high visibility. That we're not very successful in that. But anyway, that's how they like to roll. They like to have that high, tall image of their buildings, from my understanding.
Okay.
Good. We have a couple of minutes, and I'm wondering if we might just speak to some of the businesses that we know that have closed. And I know we're fortunate to have Todd as a broker on our committee. I'm just wondering, maybe for starters, Todd, if you want to speak to what you're seeing, what you're hearing in the market. I know you have your own property as well. Not to put you on the spot, but I just thought maybe we could have kind of a little open conversation about what we're seeing, and then maybe comment on some of the businesses that we've seen close.
Yeah, so generally speaking, I can say that activity's actually been pretty good, surprisingly so. There have been obviously some closures, but there's people out there doing deals. You know, on the local scene, obviously, Jenny Boston closed at our building at 45 East Main Street. They are closing all their bricks and mortar locations. They're going 100% online. They're focusing on that. But we have signed a lease with somebody. I guess I can announce it. It's Lindsay Taylor. They're going to be relocating from the space that they're in right now and basically doubling in size. So they're taking all 3 of the suites that Jenny Boston was in, and expanding the services that they provide. Bay State Commons, we still have, we did sign a lease, the paper store space with it's a relocation. It's Evolution Martial Arts, which is over at the Ocean State job lot plaza. So they're leaving there. They're taking the paper store space. I think he may have he's just doing some simple stuff right now. I think, paint and carpet maybe, or something like that. So we have that deal.
Sign, Todd. He needs
What's
a
that?
sign, Todd. I was out there today. It'd be nice to replace that paper store sign. It's in bad shape.
Yeah, it's awful. Yeah, the canopies are horrible. Yeah. And then we still haven't had any activity on the Steinmart space over there. That's challenging, 30,000 square feet. Aren't too many people out there doing deals that size right now. Interestingly enough, we have had some recent interest on the 7,700 square foot space, which is where the 300th anniversary banquet was held, kind of the other side of the pedestrian walkway from where Saatchi is. So that hopefully something will happen with that. And, so generally speaking, things have been not too bad lately. I think a lot of deals I'm working on are taking a long time. I think people are very hesitant to see what happens with this potential second round. It looks like it's coming, and what sort of impact it's going to have on the local businesses. But some of the deals are getting dragged out, and some things have been put on hold. I was in town today with a restaurant group that was looking at a site that is, I can't really disclose much of the details, but they're pretty impressed with Westborough and like to do something here. We'll see if we can get it done. It's very early in the process. I wish it was my site up on Route 9. It's not. It's a different location, but we'll see what happens. I think they'd be a good addition to the town.
Great.
I have a couple questions. Todd, have you any indication how some of the businesses that opened at Bay State right before the virus struck, like the music store, how they're doing?
I talked to Glenn, who's the property manager over there, and I think some of them are struggling. I think the music store is doing okay. They opened up, I think, maybe a year or so ago, or maybe a little longer. And so I think they were a little more established at the time. I think the one that did open up was the hair salon, Janet's hair salon. She opened up right in the middle of the pandemic. I don't know how she's doing. I think it was a little slow at first, but you look online at the reviews and she's getting great reviews. So hopefully that's helping her.
Good.
I think that's about it. I do have a question. I don't mean to jump around, but since we have a couple of the selectmen on today, what's the latest with the Regal Cinema site? Has there been any recent activity and anything you can update us on as it relates to that?
And Christy can give more. We can relate that it's boarded up right now.
Yeah.
We're having a bad problem, I think, as folks know, with vandalism.
Right.
And so we boarded it up. We did get an appropriation at this past town meeting to cover the costs that we had to do to basically secure that building for now. But I defer to Christy with some of the update that.
Yeah, I mean,
happened.
it's still going through the tax title process. There's no known owner, so it's not really. I don't really have an update. It's not any different than it has been.
Didn't somebody come out and make a claim though that they had some ownership to it, and did they just
did.
fall by the wayside once they saw the tax bill that was due?
There was a claim made, which is what prompted the board to not move forward with the eminent domain.
Right.
But there hasn't been any actual redemption of the property. So we're still moving through the process, and hopefully it'll complete quickly, but nothing related to that moves quickly. So
yeah,
but it is moving.
Yeah, it is moving.
There is activity. We are in contact. It is moving.
One of the themes on the roundtable was, entertainment in town, and certainly, the theater was one that was brought up. I don't know, Derek, whether you have, just in your dealings with companies, whether in the last 6 months, whether there's anything unique that you're running into or any feedback you're getting from businesses.
I haven't had that much feedback. I'm pleased to see that they're still maintaining the properties for the most part around the community, and they're not going into shambles, because a lot of work was done on those in a variety of ways. So so far, I mean, they're keeping up with them, which is positive. So
Yeah.
Okay, so on Milk Street in the plaza, between Maynard and the train tracks there, Macaroni Kids, they shut down. They've gone full virtual. So on the upper level, the only occupied storefront, I think there are 5 storefronts there, or 6 units, is the chiropractic office. All the others are currently vacant. My understanding is and I'm forgetting the name of it, the insurance company on East Main Street had been dark for a while. Their sign is down, their furniture's gone, so I assume they're gone. So on that strip you've got the small boutique right on the corner, you've got the entrance to the liquor store, an optician, and that's about it as far as all of those storefronts. So we're pretty vacant on East Main Street on the south side of the street right now. I haven't seen or noticed anything else beyond those.
Yeah, I'd echo that, Alan. The restaurant, we were hoping to go in with the old, I want to say Wine Crop, but I always get that name wrong. Wherever the antique store was, that doesn't look to be real hopeful at this point. The owner of that building kind of reached back out about some residential structures. She shouldn't be able to get in there, but so that, I don't know that restaurant's going to go forward, unfortunately. I have heard from a realtor too that they're planning on listing the building on the corner, the other insurance agent that's on the corner, the new brick building.
Yeah, there's a for sale sign in the window.
Oh, it's up now. So
Yeah.
they said that was going to go up for sale. I don't recall if he said if the insurance company's moving out. I'm not positive they are or not, but certainly the building's up for sale now anyway. So I don't know, the downtown doesn't look great as far as getting more vacancies rather than less, to be honest with you, Bob.
There is positive news from our call with Mass Econ and from my involvement with Mass Econ. There's strong interest in biomanufacturing. So I think some of the properties that we have, and given we have some large parcels, and we've had some success recently with Olympus and Astellas and Amazon. I think that puts us in a good place. I think similar to what Todd was saying, just through my dealings at the bank, I think decision-making has been slow. Just talking to different contractors, that there's demand, there's a pipeline, but not the decision to move forward has been slow. So I don't know, Pete, what you're experiencing with SCORE. Are you hearing from a lot of these small companies looking for guidance? Or?
I guess I would have to say that, I myself was not an entrepreneur, but I've been helping them for a while, and I'm always amazed. I think entrepreneurs are so resilient that even in the COVID-19 times, I think we're having as many people who are wanting to run their own business and start their own business as a year ago.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything they want to introduce that we haven't already? I was trying to come up with a list of the different things that we covered and some of the follow-up, and I'll throw them out. And if I miss anything, I guess actually maybe I first should say, where we have Ian on the call, there's the Ian and Todd as co-chair. Is the date for Good Scout? Is there, when will that be? The Good Scout event?
So we're doing a virtual event this year. It's the Friday after Thanksgiving. Okay. And we're not honoring any one individual this year, but what I think it's public now. I can mention it, right, Ian? Yeah. Next year we hope to have our event obviously in person again, and we're going to be honoring for the first time ever a couple. Ian and Maureen Johnson. So we're very excited about that. They're both getting the Good Scout Award. So well deserved, and I think no better representatives of what that award is all about.
Thanks. And I just stepping back on this year, I would, Karen's been helping us out a ton. We're finalizing the virtual and would encourage everybody to attend. It really is we're calling a celebration of scouting, and we're honoring all of our past Good Scout award recipients, which we, over the last, whatever it is, 17, 20 years, but also, displaying activities of, scouting in Westborough through history. So we have scouts like Bobby Sylvester who got his Eagle Scout in 1953. Part of it, we're taking pictures of Eagle Scout projects throughout town. So kind of what's, the different things they've done in terms of community service. So it should be a really, really fun event. Definitely different this year, but trying to make the most of it in these times. And again, one other thing that Westborough TV is doing, I don't think they ever sleep over there. So, but it should be fun. I encourage everybody to watch the grand premiere on the Friday night after Thanksgiving.
Great. While we're talking about the Johnsons and the Hendersons, I did want to mention I had I know that we had the parade recently for the oh my gosh, now the 80th birthday party.
Bill Linane.
Bill Linane. So Bill, wasn't able to participate in the parade. However, I went over to Bill's to give him something, and I was speaking with him, and we were talking about the garden club and the downtown beautification. And so the reason I say the Hendersons is because I don't know if everyone knows, but it's Karen's children that do the watering, which we wouldn't have downtown beautification if it wasn't for the watering. So she has definitely got that. They definitely have her blood anyway. So thank you, Karen. We cannot thank you enough. So that's really fantastic. And then Maureen Johnson is actually going to take over the downtown beautification. So which we really appreciate. So she's, very enthusiastic, and we're fortunate that she and Ian have been such, devoted volunteers in town. So thank you. Other dates, just quickly, let's see. November 18th was the date that's next, actually before that, if anyone had any comments for Kim on the job description, with getting that finalized and getting that posted. Next week, the 18th was the date for the the Economic Development Incentive Program, EDIP program webinar. If anyone's interested and needs the information, you can reach out to me. Next Friday, the 20th, if anyone that's interested in submitting a letter of interest as an EDC member. And Justin did reach out, and Todd, you may want to remind him that we asked that he submit a letter of interest. Let's see, the 24th, next Tuesday the 24th, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, Mass Econ has a virtual Economic Impact Awards, and this year it's corporate heroes, companies that rose to the occasion in response to the pandemic. Let's see, November 25th or before Thanksgiving was the deadline for the Ready Mass 100 vacant building and properties as a target date to review for their promotion, that they're going to be promoting the site and the properties beyond December 11th. So while they gave us the green light to push things in later, the sooner we get properties in, the sooner it'll be part of their promotion that they're spearheading. And then I think finally our next EDC meeting would be December 3rd. And in advance of that, we'll be hearing from Alan. Oh, actually, I forgot one. Linda is going to be sending out information to get we're going to get ideas to Linda for the video. And then she's going to be scheduling a meeting in advance. So if you have ideas on the 3 points that she identified, that would be due for next Monday. And then I guess finally was the December 3rd meeting, and Alan will be sending out some information for us just to prepare in advance. So did I miss anything? Certainly there's a lot going on, and I think everyone is engaged in many different ways. So thank you all for that. And we'll look forward to connecting over the next few weeks. So, oh, and finally, I just want to thank Kristen. She's done a wonderful job of keeping our minutes and getting things distributed and posted. So thank you, Kristen.
You're welcome.
Alan, do you want to make a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
We all need to do roll call. Okay, Bonnie Sullivan, all in favor? Or
Edinburgh, yes.
Leonardo, yes.
Jim Robbins, yes.
Linda Townsend, yes.
Bud Alexander, yes.
Very good. The meeting is adjourned.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Have a nice Thanksgiving to those if I don't see you.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.